For the very first time, the world had seen Halo, Bungie's next big thing. Reception was highly positive, but the game was still trying to find a look for itself. That would come in the form of E3 2000 when the game was shown off to the world once again, but with a fresh coat of paint. The game looked ambitious, almost too much so, which would quickly become apparent. Bungie had informed Ed Fries, head of Microsoft Game Studios, that they were in financial trouble with their latest project. This was likely due to the incident Bungie had with Myth 2. The opportunity was beneficial for both parties since Microsoft at the time was looking for new intellectual properties for their new console, the Xbox. Ed had heard of Bungie because of their previous work and was interested in the team even without knowing they already had a project in the works. On June 19, 2000, Microsoft announced their acquisition of Bungie. Although Microsoft had no intentions with interfering with the work of Bungie, they needed to be moved to a new studio in Seattle. The crew was restless at first with the new corporate appearance, and brought down morale. But one of the biggest changes was the fact that Bungie was now designing the game for a console using a controller instead of the Mac. At this time, Bungie had decided to pivot the game to a first-person shooter, but many games at the time were a lot like GoldenEye for the Nintendo 64. Yet Bungie designed their game unlike the norm, similar to what they did with Myth, by thinking outside of the box. As Jamie Greamser puts it,
in Halo 1, there was maybe 30 seconds of fun that happened over and over and over and over again. So if you can get 30 seconds of fun, you can pretty much stretch that out to be an entire game.
This led to a game with a diverse sandbox. The players led with many weapons and opportunities at their disposal during each encounter found throughout the game. Even active camos and overshields that could be found on the ground, overshields that would layer on top of Bungie's other non-traditional health system. Halo not only had health, but shields as well to help the player really feel like an unstoppable force and encourage the player to push forward in fights. Also, unlike games at the time stuck to narrow corridors, Bungie had revealed a secret up its sleeve by Mission 2. A more open game, a more diverse game, a more cinematic game. Halo Combat Evolved had set a new standard on November 15, 2001 for the whole gaming industry. Another thing that made Halo CE such a memorable game was the multiplayer portion that was added back mere weeks before the game's release. But with tight deadlines and little resources, Bungie began to funnel employees from the Oni team to the Halo multiplayer team. The goal was to create a multiplayer that was very arcadey to play, which is what began forming communities and LAN parties of people coming together to play games. In the end, Halo CE for the Xbox sold an estimated 5 million copies and earned about $170 million from US sales. But it all came at a cost, due to Bungie West sending employees to help with the development of Halo. By the time Oni released in 2000, the game was met with mediocre reviews, felt unfinished, and Bungie West was shut down. With the success of Halo, a sequel was expected by the fans, Microsoft and Bungie included. Though Bungie had already done sequels in the past, none of them would match up to the massive amount of fans waiting for the game, or what would be the dumpster fire that was the development of Halo 2, also known as the 3-act tragedy. Alex Seropian left the company to go back to Chicago with his family, and Jason Jones departed to help Bungie Phoenix with their secret MMO project at the time. Hot off the heels of Halo CE, the rest of the employees were excited and brimming with new ideas for the game in the series such as dual wielding and new creatures. The team worked to improve the engine while trying new concepts for the game, but Bungie's next goal was clear: E3 2000. The whole team began working on the demo, cramming in as much new stuff as they could inside while keeping the demo at a playable frame rate. Many overnights later, they got it done and ready to show at E3. The demo was a success all around. Many of the fans enjoyed it and wanted to see more. Bungie had pulled off another incredible showcase and were ready for the next part of the process. But before too much work would be carried out, Bungie decided to participate in their own summer game celebrating their hard work, a tradition that became common for Bungie to do. It was honestly something the employees needed, as it would be one of the last times the employees would be able to see and enjoy the sunlight for the next coming months. Bungie returns from E3 with their demo, and only their E3 demo. 50 to 60 employees had no idea what to do, and Bungie had only returned with not even a portion of a playable level. And with Alex and Jason gone, this left Bungie with a committee with poor leadership. This resulted in Jason coming back and becoming more hands-on with the project. They first focused on story. The cinematic script ended up 14,000 lines of dialogue and being 160 pages long, involving the animators, artists, programmers, and etc.
Jason locked himself in a room for a while and organized his core ideas, and then came to me and said, hey, you know, these are my thoughts about a story for Halo 2. What do you think?
It's not about making it complex, and it's not about playing movies for 2 hours between every 5 minutes of gameplay, but the more you can make somebody believe that they're in this cool place, that they're on Halo fighting the Covenant, instead of whatever, sitting in their living room at 2 in the morning trying to finish some stupid video game.
Work was back on track, and there was once again a goal. Much of the technology demonstrated in the demo, like stencil shadows and real-time reflections, had to be cut to continue development without the engine having a difficult time. Bungie had once again been racing the clock. Pandora's box had opened. With little time and many engine limitations, it had become apparent that Bungie needed to make some cuts. Big cuts. Bringing the total mission count from 15 to 9, much of which would become Halo 3 later on.
These levels behind me, they are commitment. These whiteboards, all they are is commitment. This is what we're going to do.
The time for constructive feedback is done, and it's time to work.
The development had become tough, and anything found on the bottom of the priority list was cut. Even stuff set in stone would be found scrapped. Anything being worked on by a developer could have been completely cut at any given time.
We have the whole climax of the game planned out on Earth, and we're not doing it, and that sucks.
The devil himself stood up and told us we were never going to ship it, and rammed his pitchfork up our asses.